Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Running Tales podcast with me, Craig Lewis. Running Tales, as you know, is part of the Everyday Athlete podcast network, where you can find inspiration, laughs, and plenty of nuggets of running gold from a variety of brilliant podcasts. Our little part of this project is to tell the extraordinary stories of everyday runners, walkers, and wheelchair athletes. And I'm shortly going to be joined by Ben Parker to talk about his incredible journey. So, just quickly before then, could I encourage you all to like the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network wherever you listen to podcasts and to share your favorite episodes far and wide? We do say it all the time, but it really does get those algorithms singing away so that people can find these stories. I'd also encourage you to sign up to runningtales.substack.com. That's our newsletter and website where you can find written versions of these podcast interviews and a whole lot more. That's runningtales.substack.com. I look forward to seeing you there. So back to today's podcast and our guest, Ben Parker. Ben was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis back in 2009, and it was news that changed his life and eventually saw him need a wheelchair to move around. In Ben's own words, that wheelchair has now given him a new lease of life, even as his body continues to fail him. He took part in his first park run recently and immediately loved the event. And it's so inspired him that this year Ben is about to take on a really incredible challenge of pushing his wheelchair from one side of the UK all the way over to the other. As I said, it's a pretty crazy challenge. So without further ado, let's bring Ben Parker forward to tell us all about it. Hey Ben, how you doing?
Evening, Craig. I'm good. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. It's really good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on Running Tales. Um, I want to start off by rewinding all the way back to 2009 because it was probably, I think it's fair to say, a different Ben Parker that received that dreadful news that you had a diagnosis of MS. I think at the time you were a bus driver, which clearly was something that you weren't sadly going to be able to continue to do once you'd had that diagnosis.
Yeah, it was around Christmas time because I'd been having symptoms. When I look back at my medical notes for about 10 years, but I was having symptoms, and it got to the point where you can't have a bus driver driving with one eye shut, not being able to feel his feet properly, not being able to feel his hands properly. It just too dangerous, so I had to give it up, which broke my heart at the time because I love driving buses. But when one door shuts, another one opens. I suppose that's the phrase that comes to mind. And for everything that's bad that's happened, it's sprung me forward in life, in attitudes and everything. So
Yeah, and
it's been
actually
a good
that's why I wanted
thing,
to just.
although it's a terrible thing.
Yeah, sure. That's kind of why I wanted to look at the full story, because I think the reaction you had when you sort of learned you had to give up your job, you obviously had this terrible condition, was not to kind of, and I don't know if it was an option, but sort of it's supposed to talk in stereotypes. It's like, oh well, that's it. Ben's not going to work again. He's probably going to sit and get benefits for the rest of his life. And there's nothing wrong with people who do that for me. But yeah, it can kind of be the stereotype. But the fact that you didn't do that, you actually went through a period of retraining. I think it talks to what we're going to be speaking about later, which is how you've now transitioned into doing the wheelchair racing and so on. But yeah, so perhaps kick off by just telling people what you did in terms of retraining and how Ben, no longer a bus driver, thought, well, I'm going to do something a little bit different.
Well, it all breaks down to when I was talking to a friend who needed some help with some mathematics because they were doing their GCSEs. They were redoing their GCSEs, and they asked for a bit of help. And when I helped them, they said to me, "You should be a teacher." And this was after the time of me, quite close to the time of when I was stopped driving buses. You should be a teacher. And you know that light bulb, ting. Yeah, that's what I could do. Why not be a maths teacher? Because I love maths at school, although I didn't do very well at the time. So yeah, I thought, right, that's it. I'm going to be a maths teacher. I'm one of these people that if I make that decision, I'm going to do it. And I phoned the helpline, the education line, and said, I want to be a maths teacher. They said, okay, have you got a degree? No, I haven't. Okay, have you got your A levels? GCSEs? no, sorry. They said, well, you're going to have to get them first. So I said, how long is that going to take? Take about 6 years. I said, I'll give you a call back. So off I went and did it all.
Yeah.
And then I did phone them back. I remember the day I phoned them back. I went, I'll give you a call about 6 years ago. You told me I needed all this stuff. Well, I've got them now. And they said, excellent. And then everything started to fall into place at that point. It was really cool. Really cool.
Yeah. And again, kind of trying to avoid that stereotype, but still asking the question, I suppose. Was there a stage when you got the diagnosis where you thought, well, this is it, I probably won't work again, or was it straight away, I'm going to find something else?
Well, look, in all honesty, when I was diagnosed, my first thought was it will be okay. My second thought was I've just got to hold on. That's it. And I'm still at that point today. If I'm really truthful, I've just got to hold on. Keep holding on, because you never know, at some point. I know they're completely different illnesses, what I'm about to mention, but do you remember in the 80s when HIV and AIDS first come, when we became aware of it, and everybody was terrified of it, but I suppose that the science and medicine has got to a point where people don't have to be as scared, and that's all I'm doing. I'm holding on until I don't have to be as scared, because if I sit back and think about the connotations of what's going to happen, it's a very scary thing. And I genuinely, although I do think about it time to time and it gets me down, it's not a daily thought. So it's I've just got to keep pushing forward and keep doing my best. That's it. Keep trying.
Yeah. And just to rewind a second, I suppose, for people who might not be entirely sure, could you just perhaps explain briefly what MS is and how it affects people, so they kind of understand what you're dealing with, I suppose.
Yeah, sure. Multiple sclerosis. It's a neurological disease, illness, where I've got to get it right. I always get it back to front. The nervous system is being attacked. If I've got it mistaken, it's because I'm forgetting things. So forgive me if I get it back to front. But the nervous system gets attacked and the body just slowly shuts down. So you could think of it like, when you've got your plastic, your covering around your cables for your phone charge or whatever, and when it breaks and you see the wires and it's hard to charge the phone and you have to hold it a certain way, it's basically what's happening to my nervous system, because it's being attacked by myself. And the messages don't get around the body in time. So it's just my body's slowing down, shutting down. I forget words, as I've already shown tonight, and things happen that but it's a scattergun thing. Everybody's different with multiple sclerosis, which is, I struggle to stand up properly. I struggle to grip properly. I struggle with a lot of things, but other people can go their whole life without these problems, and kudos to them for getting through it without it. But and other people will get very ill very quickly as well. There's different levels of it. Relapse remittance, which is what I was diagnosed with, I'm now at secondary progressive, which is just a slow downhill, or primary progressive, which is just the closest thing, in my uneducated opinion, it's the closest thing to motor neuron disease as you can have. So so it's a brutal illness. It's a brutal illness. My uncle had it, and it battered him. So
and obviously part of you kind of touched on it there, but part of what it does for you, and that people with MS can suffer with, is the fact that you start to lose control of your limbs and so on. You can't use your limbs properly or your legs properly, and that did result in you ending up in a wheelchair. When you got that news, what was your sort of original feeling on that? Because for a lot of people, for I suppose understandable reasons, that's a huge thing, isn't it? We get born, we start toddling around on our feet, and we spend most of our lives on them for some reason, and then to have that
yes,
suddenly taken away from you, that's that's a huge shock to the system, I assume.
Yeah, the thing is, I battled it for a good few years, to be honest. My walking, my gait, it was really progressively getting worse. And myself and my partner, we went to Paris a couple of years ago, and I just struggled even to walk one street from the hotel. And I had a walking stick, but it just became really apparent, and I'd fought off a wheelchair for so long, and then it just became really apparent I needed one. So we borrowed one from the hotel, and Louise pushed me all around Paris for a day. It was in the summer, just before the Rugby World Cup, and it was hot.
Yeah.
And poor thing, she was sweating like a lunatic, and she's pushing me around, and I'm going over there, and she's like, "Chill out, mate." And I was becoming I was a bit of a git, I suppose. I was like, "I want to go over there. I want to go over there." I bought her a lovely necklace to say thank you. But yeah, that's when it became apparent. And in all truth, I felt a lot of embarrassment. I felt embarrassment about walking with a stick because I don't look it, but I feel young, and I'm constantly thinking I'm too young for that. I'm too young. So when I had to admit the wheelchair was necessary, and it was necessary, it was something I wasn't very happy about, but it was something I needed to do. And you know, in life we have to make these decisions, don't we? So I made that decision. I went through with it, and yeah, I wasn't happy, but it was I forget the word, but acceptance. I had to accept it. So
Yeah. It's
yeah,
I mean, obviously, it's not something I've had to go through, but it's it's an I think as society we're hopefully, I think, more accepting of people with disabilities and in wheelchairs and so on.
yeah,
But
yeah,
there's still perhaps even a subconscious, perhaps, or maybe even more conscious feeling of, oh, I feel a little bit sorry for him or her, and in that having to be in a wheelchair, or and that idea of, I mean, I don't think nobody really goes, I really want to be in a wheelchair. So although we might talk about things like our superheroes and our super athletes in things like the Paralympic Games, we still use the word disabled. So there is this kind of stigma
yeah,
around it. I think I don't know what
yeah.
you think about that.
No, there is a stigma around it, and people automatically. And I'm not somebody who gets upset by it, so I want to make that very clear, because
Mm,
a lot of people in wheelchairs, you get, it's very patronising at times, and it's okay. I know it's coming from a good place, so that's the first thing I'll say. Most people are trying to be helpful, trying to be understanding, trying to be kind to us. So uh, when somebody says something, or says something that's slightly kooky, let's say, or a bit patronising, I know where it's coming from. I don't get upset by it. It can be a bit irksome, but look, they're trying to be kind. They are trying to be kind, and you know, you said it as well. Disabled. I was in a shop recently, and somebody, an old lady, bless her. I was struggling because I had my walking stick. This was actually about a year ago, and I had my walking stick, and she said, "Oh, I can see you're handicapped," and I was like, "What? You can't say that in this day." And
yeah,
it just made me laugh. It's like, well, yeah, that's how she sees it. So I'm not going to judge her. She was being kind. So yeah, it just made me chuckle. And people, we learn as we go through life. I've never been discriminated against horribly. I've never had anybody be nasty. Uh, so I don't know. I don't know. It's other people see it through different glasses, so it's another thing. So
yeah. I mean, I think everyone is sadly aware that there is discrimination out there in some parts of the world, and perhaps we'll touch on elements of how this has affected you as a wheelchair athlete later on. But I think I mean, Jason's just commented, Jason, who's producing today, that in, like, for example, Major League Baseball, he says in America, they changed the designation from the disabled list to injured list for some of the very reason that we were talking about. And, you know, language does matter. But actually, I think what you were saying, people's intention matters more. You can get the language spot on all the time, but actually, if you're prejudiced or inside, or you don't, you know, it's just all. I'd rather someone used the wrong language and acted in the right manner than the other way around, if that makes sense.
You are spot on, right? I'm going to give you an example of how comfortable it is for me with people. I was doing a half marathon with in where was it? Stevenage, about a month or so ago, and the guy who I was next to at the time, he said to me, "Oh man, I haven't run for ages. I can't feel my legs." Right? And I'm very sarcastic and deadpan, I'll be honest with you. And I just looked up at him and I just said, "Welcome to my world, man." And he looked aghast, I'll be honest with you. And he was like, "I'm so very sorry." I'm like, I'm teasing, mate. Don't worry. I get it. But I'd rather people were like that than they were tippy-toeing and pretending to be something they didn't want to be. So I'm cool, and I like that, the disabled list to the injured list. That's it's a good way of looking at things. It's quite cool. I like that.
Yeah. Ben, let's move on and talk about you becoming not just wheelchair bound or wheelchair user, but a wheelchair athlete. And you started park running, I think, was it June last year? What brought that on?
Right. You've said disabled athlete several times, and it still makes me chuckle. I'll be honest with you. What brought that on? A colleague at work. Once I was in the wheelchair, he just kept saying to me, "You need to come down the park run with me." And I was just new to my wheelchair, and I was like, "Yeah, all right, mate, all right." I'm still trying to find my not my feet, but I'm still trying to find my way with what I'm doing in the chair as it is. But he just kept saying it to me. So I said, "All right, I will come down. I will come down." And it sort of shocked him. He's like, "Will you?" I'm like, yeah, I'll be there Saturday. So for anybody who's done the Harlow Park run, it is quite undulating. It's quite hilly. So I get there, and my partner came with me, and I went round in an hour and 18 minutes. I stopped about 4 times. I was shocked at how unhealthy and how tough it was. I'll be honest with you. And they did this thing, and they were really sweet. And they said, "Right, Ben's new. He's in a wheelchair. If he's struggling, he's going to put his hand up, and if you're near him, please give him help." Okay. But I'm a stubborn soul, and I never put my hand up. I just said, "No, if I'm struggling, I'm going to struggle, and I'll do it by myself." And this is my probably ethos, I suppose. If I struggle, I'll struggle, and I'll do it. And so I did it once, and it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. So I was very happy. It all went. I'm not sure. I was thinking, yeah, I'll come back and do that, but I knew I was coming back. Do you know what I mean? I knew. I didn't like the 1 hour 18 when I was looking and people doing it in 17, 18 minutes. I'm like, nah, mate, I've got to get that better. So I just kept going back, and I kept turning up, and people were genuinely so welcoming. I've had so many wonderful people come to me whilst I'm there. People who I've even had people online email me and message me and say, "You've inspired me to actually do something in my wheelchair," because I plaster it all over social media about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. But yeah, I've loved it from day one. It was tough. It was really tough. But keep going back, keep doing it. It's just a wonderful thing. It's very therapeutic. I'll be honest with you. It's get into my zone, just do what I need to do. It's a great thing. So yeah, a colleague of mine, it's his fault.
There's always somebody, isn't there, who's caused us to start doing these crazy things. My wife a while ago, we have a mutual friend, you and I, Carol James, who introduced us and got us on this. And Carol's a wheelchair racer herself. And one day, Carol lent my wife Michelle her wheelchair to do the park run at Northampton in it, and she did it in a little over an hour, and said it was the hardest thing she's ever done, just pushing with her arms and so on. And she just said she's afterwards, I've just got so much more respect for what you do, getting around that part run. And every different time the camber of the road went one direction, she was just shooting off the wrong way. And
that's like brilliant. That's
brilliant. Get used to everything.
I think Carol's amazing. She pushes herself. I love seeing what she's up to. She genuinely puts a smile on my face when I see her efforts, and it's one of them things. You see somebody else doing it, and it gives you a little perk, and it makes you feel better about it. Yeah, I just genuinely I love seeing what she's doing, and every time I see it, it's like good on you. That's what I think. So.
Yeah, definitely. There's that age-old sort of saying around that if you see people who are like you doing something, then you're more likely to want to do it yourself. And I think that probably applies in this case as well. But I wanted to touch upon something else you sort of said within that commentary around your first run, which was like you mentioned. They said if you're struggling, put your hand up. Ben will put his hand up, and people can come and help. Which I think is great, actually, because they didn't just sort of leave you to it, and also they didn't just say, "Oh, help, Ben." It was your decision if you needed help, which brings me on to sort of something we touched upon when we were chatting in the green room before, which is the sort of elements of helping from park runners and other athletes sometimes, which is again that well-meaning thing, which is not always actually that desired. In particular, the people who will see you perhaps struggling up a hill and come along and give you a push.
Oh, do you know what? I've had it. It's happened so many times when I'm out training, because the long run is to go across the country, as we know. So when I'm in my town and I'm pushing up hills, I've had people stop cars, jump out, run over, start pushing me, and I'm like, man, I haven't asked you for help. Leave me alone. But I have to say it nicely, and I've only ever lost my temper once, and I'll tell you about it because it actually makes me laugh now, and it made me laugh at the time, to be honest, if I think about it. But I was doing a park run, and it was only about 5 weeks ago. I've had people trying to push me up hills, and I'm like, no, I don't need help. I'm all right.
Yeah.
But I was going along. I was going up this slight incline, and all of a sudden, I lost all control of where I was going. I ended up going off the path, ended up on the grass. I thought I was being attacked by a dog or something. I genuinely did, because a big dog had just gone past.
Yeah.
And I turned around. There was a lady in a mobility scooter. She thought I needed help, so she just got behind and started pushing me.
In a scooter?
In a mobility scooter. So she's pushed me off the track. And I was like, what are you doing? She's like, you needed help. I'm like, no, I didn't. And I did lose my temper. I wasn't rude. I just told her what she did was reckless and dangerous and whatever, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
But it was the most weirdest thing that had happened. And I was like, did that just happen? And then I had people come up and say, I saw that. What on earth? I'm like, oh, don't ask me. But bless her, I did, I did tell her what I thought. I wasn't rude. I just told her the facts that it wasn't on.
Yeah.
But I get people trying to push me everywhere. And if they ask, I say, no, thank you, but thanks for the offer. If they do it, I tell them quite quickly to get off. I'm doing something, and it's. But again, it goes back to it. I know they're coming from a good place.
Yeah.
If you see somebody struggling, you want to help, don't you? So it's tough, because some people, if they left it, they'd feel bad going home. So I'd rather they tried to offer help then went home and thought, oh, I left that poor bloke struggling. It's fine. It's cool. I'd rather people ask. So
yeah. And the thing is, if people ask properly, then you can only say no, and they'll go, oh, great, well done, mate, keep going.
that's
Although
exactly it.
I have to say, Ben, I've struggled up a lot of hills, and nobody has offered to give me a push yet. And I would say yes. So if people,
Do you know what I do?
I'll have a push up a hill.
I do offer people a lift if they look like they're really struggling, to be honest. But it is quite nice. It is quite nice when you're going down the hills. I'm quick, fast as lightning, but going up the hills, it's tough going, but it's great. I really love the whole. You get a couple of moments of relaxation, then you have to really push yourself to get up that hill, and then if it's flat, it's nice. What people don't realise when you're in a chair, people say to you, "Oh, it's flat round the corner. It's flat round the corner." Their idea of flat and my idea of flat are completely different things, and I don't mean that rude, but even if it's a slight incline, I feel it, and it's tough going. It's tough going. So, and I had that when I was doing the Colchester Half Marathon a couple of months ago. Everybody kept saying, "Oh, it's flat round the corner," and they were saying it all the way through the whole thing, and it wasn't flat anyway. It was hard going. That was a tough slog, that one, but it was good. It was good. I crossed the line in the end.
Oh, good man. You've mentioned half marathons a couple of times now. What made you take that extra? I was going to say that extra step. You've got me doing it.
That extra push.
That extra push from bar half.
I was doing the park runs, and another colleague said that I've got a spare place on the Vitality 10 kilometre in London. Do you want to have a go at it? I was like, yeah, I'm doing all right with the park runs. By that point, I got the park run down to about 45 minutes. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. So I went to London. I did the 10 kilometre. Now, getting a train into London, that's another kettle of fish. It's getting somebody there to have a ramp to get you onto the train and then get there the other end. And what they don't tell you is that the people who say, yes, we'll have a ramp there, and the people who are there are two different organisations. So they don't know that there's nobody at the actual station. So you're there and you have to rely on passengers to help you get on the train. But there you go. That's another thing. But the 10 kilometre, I thought I'd give it a go, and I did it. And that was with my colleague he was the guy who got me into the park runs. He was there.
Yeah.
And I loved it. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And it's the furthest I'd ever pushed. And when I crossed that finish line, it was near Buckingham Palace, something weird happened. I was really overcome with emotion, and I had to bury my head in my t-shirt and cry my eyes out for some reason. It really hit me for a minute or two, and I just felt so overwhelmed with what I'd just done. 10 kilometres is a long way for anybody, I think. But to do it in a chair, just an everyday wheelchair, it was amazing. I felt really amazing. And so I did the 10 kilometres. And by this point, I'd already decided I was going to cross the country. So I've just been upping it since. And I've done a few halves, a couple of marathons now. And I'm doing an ultra marathon on this Sunday coming. So it's I'm just pushing, and I'm just pushing boundaries for myself. That's what it is. Because, it's very difficult to tell yourself at some point, you're not going to be able to do this. So why not do it today? It's as simple as that, really. So keep pushing, keep doing it. If I can't do it at some point, I can't do it. And I'm not going to beat myself up. I just dust myself down and try again. That's as simple as it is. So
yeah. I've got a couple of definite questions I want to ask you off the back of that. The first one that comes to mind is that sort of emotion that poured out when you finished that 10K. I mean, obviously that for me is entirely understandable from what you'd achieved given what you've gone through. But it also brought a question into my mind that I meant to ask you earlier, which was pre the diagnosis. Had you been a runner? Had you been sporty, or was that actually that 10K was not only the first race you'd done in a wheelchair, but the first race you'd done at all?
Ever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a runner. I'm not a runner. I used to watch the London Marathon every now and then when I was a kid, but this is the funny thing, right? I'm glad you've just brought that up. Actually, there was a guy when I was at primary school. So this is 40 something years ago. Which he came in and he showed us his foil sheet that he had when he finished the London Marathon. It was one of some kid at school. His dad came in and he's like, "I just ran the London Marathon," and I'm like, "This bloke's run the London Marathon. That's amazing." And I remember thinking, I'll never be able to do that. I remember as a kid, I'll never do that. I'll never.
Yeah.
And he was somebody I was in awe of when I remember it really vividly, and it was in assembly, and it was quite amazing. There's only a few times in primary school where I was quite amazed by things, and that was one of them. And it was it was really cool. So when I ended up doing a marathon and the emotion thing, it's also to do with where I am in life and everything, because one of the things I don't do it so much, but one of the things I say when I actually say it out loud as I'm pushing, it might seem a bit dramatic and a bit weird, but it's like, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. That's all I'm saying to myself. When it's tough, don't want to die. And I'm just keep pushing. It's like a little G myself along thing, because as you know, running can be really tough at times, and you have moments where you're doubting what you're doing is right, and you're doubting why you're doing it. And I have to remind myself, and I've only cried properly, I would say, twice, and it was at the 10K, the Vitality, and it was at the Brighton Marathon. And I sent you that picture, didn't I, where I was just sat there, and I was about a kilometre away from the end, and I was just sitting there just thinking, this is so difficult. and my missus was just walking along, geeing me up, taking little videos, encouraging me to finish, because it took me a long time, just under 7 hours, which again, not everybody's done a marathon. Am I correct, the 1% club with that?
Yeah, I think it's something like, I think it's actually less than, it's something like ridiculous, like worldwide, something like 0.1%. I think it is. It's not even like 1%.
Oh,
It's
that's
something
even
crazy.
better, man. That's even better.
I mean, I have to look it up after this to make sure I've got it right. But yeah, I don't think it's 1%. It's something ridiculous, like 0.1% of the world's population has done a marathon. So yeah,
it's an amazing release when you cross that line. I don't think people, and again, it's not to say, "Ooh, you're rubbish, I'm brilliant." I don't think people realise the emotions that go through you, because throughout the race, you go through the high of starting, you go through the calm of just getting into your pace and your rhythm, you go through the desperate moments of what the hell is this about. You go through, I've got to stop. I keep saying it. I've done 2 marathons, and both of them I get to about 25 kilometers, and I'm like, right, I'll do one more, then I'll stop. 1 more kilometer, then I'll stop. And I just keep saying that till I get to the end. And then it's like, no, I can't do this. I'm gonna stop. And I convince myself I'm going to stop, but I never have actually stopped until the end.
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. No, one thing that sort of strikes me, and I've found this with a few people I've spoken to on the podcast, around perhaps who've been diagnosed with various conditions, or we had a chap on last week who had leukemia and then overcame that, went in remission, ended up running ultra marathons. But and I try to say this in a way that doesn't make light of the conditions or the illnesses, because that's the last thing I'd ever want to do. But
Yeah,
in some ways, I think what I've heard from people, and it seems that you're saying the same thing, is that it almost, the condition, the illness, much as we wouldn't want to wish it on anybody, it kind of focuses the mind, and it's like, I'm going to do this today because I might not be able to do it tomorrow. Well, that applies to me as well. I don't have MS, but that applies to everyone. But it seems like sometimes having these conditions actually focuses your mind and makes those things happen quicker.
Yeah, you're spot on. The difference between, but the similarities you and I have is we could both get hit by a bus tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? And that could be it. The differences we have is, if we're not, our lives have the implications of illness that may be shortening it to an extent, may not. So we're sort of like gambling on how it all is. And I genuinely get that. And I agree with you. And it's just about, it's one of them things. Until I was in the chair, and I'll go back to from getting in the chair, I feel a fuller human being again. It sounds a bit weird, but I can move around properly. I can do everything again. I'm a bit more independent once again, and it's just a beautiful thing. And when I'm pushing in the races, nobody talks to me and says, "How's it in the wheelchair?" They're just like, we just talk normally. Normally, and people say, do you want a gel? Do you want some fruit? Do you want a jelly baby or something whilst we're going around? And quite often I'd say yes, and it'd be thank you. It's just beautiful, and the camaraderie when you're doing that, it just feels there are nobody's got any boundaries on them. Everybody's just the same. Everybody's going through their periods of difficulty in it, and all that stuff, and it's just really cool. I really enjoy it. It's brilliant.
Yeah. How have you found it with some of the races you've entered, in terms of things being, your use of the wheelchair being catered for? Because I've spoken to some people who've sort of said, yeah, they'll say it's a flat course. It's not, and you touched on that earlier, but sometimes it's like, it's not even a slight thing, it's like that, and race directors may not understand how that impacts you in a wheelchair, or they may have. I had a chap told me the other week that he did I think it was a 10K race, and they started everybody off on a bit of gravel, just 100 meters, and he's like, I can't. It will take me half the race to get through that bit of gravel, and
right.
Race directors don't always get those things, I think.
Yes, I did a half marathon in Victoria Park in is it East London somewhere? Victoria Park. I forget where it is, but Victoria Park. It was just after Christmas. It was a miserable day. It was raining. It was horrible. But I went round and I was doing good time. I was actually on a personal best of 2 hours. Forgive me, 2 hours. I was going to hit 2 hours 15. 2 hours 15 for a half marathon, which I'm really impressed with. And
well, I mean, sorry to interject there, but you look at the difference between 2 hours 15 for a half and you originally going around in that 1 hour 15 for 5K. That's incredible.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But the last 50 meters was on grass.
Yeah.
50 meters on grass. And it put another 7 or 8 minutes on my time. I was really put out.
Yeah.
They have lots of portaloos for people. They didn't have anything that took a wheelchair. And I found that with the same company. I'm not going to embarrass them, but I found that with the same company recently as well. Portaloos just not accommodating my wheelchair. And to be honest, people not accommodating the fact that I'm in a wheelchair, and they're using the disabled when I'm at races and they come out. Maybe this is just my thing, but maybe they've got an invisible disability that I should be more accommodating to. But it's just, Sometimes, only sometimes, but I tell them when I'm not happy, and then hopefully they'll fix it.
Yeah.
But I did a I did a half marathon in Watford. Oh my word! I didn't know Watford was hilly. I thought it was flat as anything. But
I've heard it's hilly, actually. I've not done
oh
it, but
my
I've heard it
word!
is.
It was, and it wasn't just every corner I went round. I'm not going to repeat what I was saying, but it was another one. It was another one. It just, they didn't stop. It was heartbreaking at times, but there we go. There we go. I pushed myself through it. I got to the end, so I was quite happy.
Yeah. What would your kind of advice be, or your, I suppose, your requests be to race directors when they're thinking about? I think most race directors would either say that they're inclusive, or at least that they'd like to be inclusive, but perhaps they're not. What would you kind of say to them?
Do you know what? I've just started a new job in a new school, and it's an old building, and it's not very disability friendly. Okay, and I'm not saying that to be horrible about the school, because what they're saying to me is, right, Ben, when you encounter a problem, tell us,
Yeah.
we'll fix it. We'll fix it when you get there. Okay, you're the guinea pig of sorts. I'm paraphrasing. So please just let us know and we will be on it. And they've been true to their word. Every time I've found a problem, I tell them and
Yeah.
they fix it. That's what I'd suggest to them. Put it out there. If people are disabled, whether it be physically or mentally disabled, uh, just ask for feedback. If people are willing to give feedback, which I'm always willing, listen to it, because we're not
Yeah.
just saying it to be a pain, we're saying it because it helps others. So that's all I'd suggest. That's all I'd say.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's, I suppose, like you say, the big thing is putting those things in action, not
Mm.
just kind of paying a lip service to it, which so many people sadly do in society in general. But I want to move on because time is ticking by, and you have one very big challenge coming up,
Yeah.
which is going to be you pushing that wheelchair across the whole of the country. So tell people about that, the route you're going to take, and why you're doing it.
Okay, so look, when I first did the park run, I was talking. I flippantly said to my headmaster. She's a principal, sorry, not head principal. I said to my principal, she said, "How's the park run going?" I said, "Yeah, quite good. I might as well just cross the country." And it was a chuck away remark, and she said, "Yeah, you do it for charity." And it's like, hmm. And then I said it to somebody else, and then I said it to somebody else. When you say it often enough, you've got to go through it. Because part of me was just like, yeah, I could do this. I could really do this, and it'll be great fun. It won't be fun. It's going to be horrible, but I'm going to love it. So yeah. I decided. I was trying to think how to go about it, and a friend of mine suggested the most easterly point in the country to the most westerly point. So it's from Ness Point in Lowestoft.
Yeah.
On July the 27th, I'll be there. Trying to decide whether 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, starting there, and then just doing 50, maybe 60 kilometers a day,
Wow.
uh, and just head over through Cambridge, down by Leighton Buzzard, Tame, Oakhampton, and just go down to Land's End in Cornwall over two
Yeah.
weeks, maybe 13 days, something like that. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's incredible. And how much time have you spent kind of recceing the route and seeing where you're going? Because I'm sort of thinking straight away that you're going to want nice, flat, tarmac roads, but they tend to come with big cars and lorries on them that are not that friendly.
Well,
Or to
look,
avoid it, you're suddenly on some horrible trail.
no, the idea is to make sure I stay away from obviously motorways.
Mm,
I'm trying to stay as far away as possible from A roads.
yeah.
Go on the smaller B roads. The roads that we all used to drive on that nobody goes on anymore because they built a nice shiny road next to it. So the recce, we did it at Christmas. me and my partner, we went and did it down the Cornwall end, and it just became a nightmare. So we give up on it and just had a couple of days down in Cornwall. And I think the best thing, I tend to just work out my route, look at what it's got on Google Maps. It looks they're quite true to what it is. Chuck it in Strava, see where it's going to be tough, and just go and do it. Just go and do it. I'm not really this sounds terrible, doesn't it? I'm not very organised with stuff like this. If I know how bad it's going to be, I don't want to do it. So I'm just going to turn up and give it a good go. That's.
Oh, I love that. I think there's a lot of that in some of these challenges we take on. If we really knew what we were doing, we'd never go near them.
Yeah.
Have you got sorry, I was going to say, have you got a support crew in place? Have you got people to help you through this? Have you got places to stay overnight?
Support group. I've just got one, and they're really cool. They're helping. Places to stay, not yet. I haven't done any of that. There's a wonderful couple. They've decided they'd really like to help me do this. Help with the organisation of the other stuff. So whilst I'm pushing around and training and doing what I can, they're going to help with all the other stuff. Yeah. And they're like, where are you going to stay? I'm like, I don't know. I'll stay somewhere. Somebody will put me up, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, my God. No, we've got to sort something out for you. And I'm like, yeah, it will happen. It will happen. And they're just like, you're ridiculous, Ben. But they're getting onto it. They know what they're doing. We're putting something into place, and we're going to be staying in a few places. A couple of the nights I'll be able to come home because I'm going quite close to home. So when I stop in Newmarket, it's just up the road. When I stop, it's not Royston. I can't remember. But when I stop there, I'll be able to come home because it is just 35 minutes away. So little things like that will be helpful. And when I get down the bottom, my missus is going to be staying in a place there, and she'll come and pick me up a couple of times right near the end. So, yeah.
And can people perhaps come along and join you on sections of the route? Is there going to be a place where people can see where you are each day and so on?
Well, I've got to look into sorting that out, but I am going to put that on. I'm going to, because I know who's the incredible lady who walked around the coast recently, Lindsay Bell, I think her name is.
There was a lady called Elise Downing who did it, but that was a fair few years ago, so there's probably one since then.
Yeah, there's a lady from Colchester. She walked around the country, and she had a tracker to say where she was, and I'll get that sorted, and I'll be telling people on a day what my route, where I'm going to be going, so they'll be able to see where I'm going. It'd just be, if people want to come and say hello and join me for a bit, I'll happily accept it. But I have to be a bit careful, because the police have told me if you have too many people involved on the road, you're causing a big obstruction. I'm just going to be a little obstruction on the road. So
you don't want to look like Forrest Gump with people.
Yeah, I'll just stop one day and I want to go home. Yeah.
Oh no, great stuff. Well, as long as we don't upset the police, we'll happily keep sharing where you are and how people can join you along the way. So just keep letting us know as you get more details.
Yeah, definitely.
And the most important thing, I think, is you're doing this for is it a couple of really important charities? Who are you doing it for?
There's two charities, and one of them, it's Andy's Man Club. Everybody keeps saying, "Are you doing it for the MS Society?" No, they're a big charity. They're cool. Everybody looks after them. We don't need to worry. I'm doing it for Andy's Man Club, which is a male suicide prevention charity. They're setting up meetings where men can go and talk and just get rid of the stuff that's on their mind, on their shoulders. Just get it out so they don't have to stress so much. I didn't realise until I started doing this, that 12 blokes every day kill themselves. 12. It's astonishing. It's astonishing. It shouldn't be like that, because it's not just them it affects. It's their families, it's their friends, it's their colleagues, it's everybody.
Yeah.
And it's the people who have to, forgive what the phrase I'm using, who have to go and clear up afterwards. And I don't mean that in a horrible sense. It affects so many people. So if you can save one life, you're actually making a few lives better. So that's that. I think that's vitally important. And the other charity is an educational charity. It's No Child Without, which is for educational purposes for young people who can't afford equipment, school trips, stuff like that. It will pay for them to do that, so that they're not left out, not left behind. So I was one of those young people. So it just means a lot to me that kids can get the same opportunity as everyone else. So,
yeah. Well, no, that's two superb charities, and I actually really like what you said. Then, listen, I'm not going to tell people not to help MS Society or things like that, but these big charities, people tend to always go for big charities, and like you say, big charities, they're doing all right, not as well as they used to, because everyone's struggling, and even the charities are struggling. But
yes, yeah,
there's a lot of there's a lot of smaller organizations that really need people's help at the moment, and it's lovely to see you kind of representing and helping out a couple of those too. Where can people go if they want to donate and help out?
Well, there's a couple of places you can either go to my Instagram page, which is at Wheelie King 2025. Wheelie is IE, so you could go there, or you could just put in Wheelie King cross country challenge on Just Giving, and I'm on there. Benjamin Parker, whichever way you want to go about it, you'll find me on there, and yeah, you can give there if you want to. You don't have to give me anything. I'm happy just plodding along, doing my bit. I've already raised £2,500, so
amazing.
I'm very happy with it. I'm blown away by people's generosity, to be honest with you. All I'm doing is doing a bit of pushing, and people are just giving money left, right, and centre, and it blows my mind. It's very humbling indeed.
No, it's brilliant, Ben, and well done on what you've done so far. We'll make sure to share some of those links as well, and hopefully bring in a few more pennies. But I'm guessing you're not just pushing, because there's probably a fair bit of training going into this as well, isn't there?
Well, do you know what? Yes, but I'm again. You'll go away from this thinking, oh, he's very slapdash with all this, right? But there's a local gym. They've offered to they've just said, come in the gym when you can, and we'll help you out. We'll give you some sessions. It's so difficult being a teacher, to do my job, to do other bits. Maybe it's an excuse, but it's difficult to do that, the pushing and other bits as well. So I've been seeing a physiotherapist who massages my shoulders regularly and gives me exercises to do to strengthen my shoulders. So it's going all right. I did 40 kilometers last week. I feel good at the moment. I feel like it's possible. It's really possible. Although I did fall over in my car the other day. In my car, I was reaching back and I slipped.
Oh no!
And I felt like I'd cracked my ribs or something. It was so painful. But I went out for a short push today just to make sure it was all right. And it was okay. I did just under 10 kilometers and it felt okay. So tomorrow I'll go out and push for probably 30, 35, something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you done a lot of sort of back-to-back stuff, day after day? Because obviously that's something you're going to have to get used to, isn't it?
Yeah, well, this week, because I'm on half term, I'll be doing it tomorrow, and I'll be doing it up until my ultra marathon Sunday. That will give me a good idea how it is. So then once the GCSE is finished, there's other things. It gives me a bit more time, and I'm able to just do a bit more pushing and get into the practice of daily stuff. And because I'm building up, I'm getting to the point now where I want to be at the best I can be, and my distances are getting bigger, and then it'll be smashing it. And I'll be panting as I'm going along the roads and stopping and moaning and everything. But at the end of it, that's all I picture there. I picture the very end point. That's all I'm seeing as I'm building up to it, and it'll be it's amazing. I'm quite excited. It's only 9 weeks, 8.5 weeks away, so
not long to go. Would Ben Parker, who was perhaps driving his bus around in 2009, starting to unfortunately feel a little bit not quite right, never having run a race before or done any race like that, would he have even contemplated, vaguely imagined that Ben Parker 16 years later would have been getting ready to take something on like this?
It's astonishing. No, I genuinely wouldn't. It's actually astonishing what's occurred in the last year and a half, 2 years, ever since we went to Paris. It's jaw-dropping. Genuinely, Ben Parker from 2 years ago wouldn't foresee this. It's an amazing thing, and I completely get it. People who throw themselves into the whole process of what a running is and everything like that. I know I don't run, but I push, and it's amazing. It's really amazing. It is. I'm so glad it's done, and I'm just trying to think what I'll do afterwards.
That was going to be my other question. Is there something else there? And another challenge?
There is, but it might take a bit of working out.
Can we draw you any further on that, or is that for a follow-up episode at some point?
Maybe it'd be a follow-up, because it genuinely is huge. It's like, could I do that? I'll give you an idea. We were talking about Forrest Gump earlier, weren't we?
Yeah.
Where was he going? He was just going back and forth. So maybe, but it's I have to get it agreed.
That's always another thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Get it signed off by the boss.
You got it spot on, man. You got it spot on. That's it.
And just to finish off, Ben, what would you say to anybody else, I suppose whether they're in a wheelchair or not, who's maybe thinking about going to that park run the first time? It might well take them an hour and 15 minutes to get round, and they sort of think, oh my word, is this going to be a little bit embarrassing? What would you kind of say to them? So just go and do it.
Just do it. Yeah. Do you know what? I'll keep it short because I know time. At that hour 18, people were saying to me as they were going past me, well done, mate. Well done.
Yeah.
I am now that bloke going past people going, well done, keep going. You're doing good. You're doing great. It's just, I'm doing what people done for me. And nobody looks down at you, because there's so many people that ain't even doing it. So just do it. Just do it. It's worth it. It's brilliant. You will get all the encouragement. You'll get all the help you need when you turn up. You don't get any help if you don't turn up, do you? So just turn up.
Brilliant. I love that, Ben. That's absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today on Running Tales and talking about your not running journey, your journey, and everything you've done. I wish you all the very best when it comes to pushing yourself from one end of the country to another. I'm sure it will be hard, but I'm sure it will be fantastically rewarding as well. So yeah, well done you, and good luck with it all.
Thank you, Craig. It's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, man.
Nice one. And thank you to everyone who has come and listened to Ben's story today. It's a fantastic story. We'll make sure to share all those links so you can go and help him, watch him, and contribute to those fantastic charities as well. Thanks again to joining us on Running Tales. Please like the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network wherever you listen. And we'll be back in 2 more weeks with another running tale. Thanks and goodbye.